Can Corey Kispert regain his consistency? And what can we expect from Kyshawn George in the second half of the regular season? Questions. Got some answers for y'all next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Watch out now. Your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Wizards Daily Newsletter, a one-stop for the ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with all new free Locked On Wizards newsletter. What's up, everybody? It's your boy B Scott again. And like I said, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Corey Kispert, we're going to do midseason grades for Corey Kispert and Kyshawn George and kind of look at the schedule for this weekend because, like I said, the second half of the regular season for the Washington Wizards starts on Friday night, even though it formally starts Thursday night, tomorrow night. But Friday night, the Wizards kick it off at home against the Milwaukee Bucks, and I will be there to cover the team. But like I said, first things first, let's talk about Corey Kispert and Kyshawn George. But the question is, can Corey Kispert regain his consistency? And what is my midseason grade for Corey Kispert? What are the pros and the cons and expectations? So let's get into it. Now, Corey Kispert, obviously before the season started, he signed a brand new rookie extension that looks to kick in next season. So let's take a look at his extension real quick. Now, looking at Corey Kispert, starting next year, he'll be earning $13.9 million over the next a couple seasons, and then the third year of his deal, which would be the 2027 to 2028 year, would be $13 million. So not bad. I mean, it's not a bad extension. And obviously, we have a lot of questions. The year before last, we extended Denny Avia, and then on draft night, previous draft, we traded him to Portland for the draft rights to the for Bob Carrington, which ended up being the 14th overall pick and other draft compensation and players, and who would obviously Malcolm Brogdon, but Corey Kispert. Again, signed an extension and has not exactly, here's the question. Has he or hasn't he really played up to his extension? And I'm going to say he has, even though he has taken a slight dip in production. But let's take a look at his stats this year, and then we're going to look at what areas has his production dip. So looking at this season, currently he's averaging around 26.8 minutes a night. So roughly around 25 minutes a night. So this is kind of what you expect from a guy who's really the sixth man and microwave scorer off the second unit. He is averaging 11.8 points per game, while shooting 36.3% from three-point range and 45.7% from field goal range. So shooting 45% overall, not bad. 3-point percentage, 36, definitely what you want to see. Obviously the average is a little around 35, round up 36%. So he's shooting around slightly above average as far as 3-point percentage. He also contributed 1.6 assists, an area where I think he could definitely get better at. Rebounding 3.1, we'll take that. He's not a guy that really is known to get in there and get really active in the paint. He will at times, but like I said, he's more of a perimeter type of player, man. Defensively, only 0.2 blocks, and kind of what you expect. He's not a big block guy, and steals only a half a steal per game. So looking at his statistics from the first three seasons, last year was his career high, where he averaged 13.4 points per game. So obviously he kind of reverted back to 11 points per game. So his scoring did dip. Now field goal range, 48%. So it did go down from 48 to 45, and then 3-point percentage, it went from 38 to 36. So not too bad as far as dip in production. I mean, yes, there is dip in production, but not enough to really panic. I mean, while you do the big, and like I said, we're gonna get to the pros and cons, but consistency is the biggest thing with Corey Kispert. But looking at the stats, yes, his scoring average did go down 2 points. But like I said, let's slide into his pros. Like I said, I think to a certain degree, at this point in his career, he is what he is. What are his pros? Well, Corey Kispert, obviously that 3-point shooter. He's a sniper. He's a guy who can definitely stretch the floor. He's the shooter on this team. Now you can look at Kyshawn George. He's definitely the next up and coming shooter on the Wizards, but Corey Kispert's that sniper. He has the ability to move without the basketball, which is a skill that is not only forgotten on this team, but forgotten league-wide. He's one of the better guys who moves without the ball, with his ability to slash the basket. A lot of people, can catch him wide open and slash him. So he's always been a really good slasher, a guy who can attack the rim. He can humble some people. I mean, he's had a few nice dunks driving the lane. So he's a guy who could definitely put the ball on the floor and attack the basket, even though he's more of a perimeter, guy. He's a shooter. So he's a guy who's going to be really predominantly on the perimeter. But like I said, in the offseason and really the last couple of years, you have seen improved ball handling from Corey Kispert. And with improved ball handling, he's had the ability to put the ball on the floor and not only try to create for others, even though the assist numbers aren't really where you want him to be for a guy who can be a 2 guard or a small forward, depending on what situation you put him in. But he can put the ball on the floor and create for himself. He can definitely attack the basket. So, like I said, the biggest thing with Corey Kispert is high basketball IQ. Coming out of Gonzaga, Gonzaga is one of the schools where they really prepare their players to be high IQ players. Rui Hachimura is another guy. Long list of guys, Jalen Suggs with the Orlando Magic. So, like I said, a lot of players come out of Gonzaga they're with a high basketball IQ. There's one of the better programs as far as really getting their guys mentally ready for the NBA. So that's one thing I've always liked from Gonzaga as far as the preparation, as far as preparing their players for the next level. So, like I said, the pros, he's obviously a sniper. Like I said, he has been consistent every year being a high-level sniper, whether it's spot starting, whether it's being a starter, whether it's coming off the second unit. Again, it was his ability to not only attack the basket, but slash, move it out the basketball, and high basketball IQ are a lot of his pros. And the biggest pro to me, outside of all those areas, which are great areas, as far as what are the best attributes of Corey Kispert, but the biggest thing is availability. I mean, he's available. He plays. He does not miss much time. So let me pull up. Give me a second, guys, because I just had it up, and for some reason I hit the button. So we're gonna look at his games played per year going back, because looking at the last 3 years. So bear with me. So looking at the last 3 years, his rookie campaign, which was 2021, 2022, he played 77 games and started 36. So 77 out of 82, especially as a rookie, not bad. Year after that, 22, 23, 74 games played, where he started 45. So still 74, 80, 82. Last season, 80 games played, only started 22, but availability is your best ability. And Corey Kispert shows up. He has not dealt with a lot of injuries. He's a guy who definitely keeps himself in good shape. Definitely works on his game every offseason. Now, he does have some cons, and let's kind of slide into the cons of Corey Kispert, which are defense. The biggest knock against you can say consistency, but like I said, first things first, defense. Defense, while he has, last year he was a better defender. Even though he was a better defender, he's still a below average defender. This year, along with some of his shooting stats, his defense has kind of slipped. And while you'll never mistake Corey Kispert as being a good, I'm not gonna say good defender, but a lockdown defender. He's not gonna be a lockdown defender, but he's a guy who has kind of slipped as far as energy on the defensive end. And that's the biggest knock. You can say consistency, yeah, but to me, and is his defense. His defense at times can be bad. And while he worked on his defense last year, this year he has kind of slipped on the defensive end, and he does show energy. It's just he's a below average defender, in my opinion. He's a guy who, he definitely shows a lot of effort, a lot of energy on the defensive end, but and he has gotten stronger. That's one attribute to look at, where he has gotten stronger over the course of the last offseason. He needed to add some muscle. So he's trying to become a better defender, but he's not quite there. And like I said, at this stage in his career, can he get better in certain areas? Yeah, but he is what he is because he's a shooter. He's a shooter who can move without the basketball. He's a shooter who, can he attack the rim? Absolutely. But, he's a guy who's relegated to the perimeter. And defensively, while, he shows effort, he shows energy, he's a below average defender, and at times has been a detriment at certain times. A couple games ago where before the All-Star break, you saw, I believe they took out JV13 and put in Corey Kispert. I believe so. I'm just going off on top of the brain right now. But, and that was a bad move by BK, man, because, Corey Kispert he's not where he needs to be as a defender. And while he has definitely worked on it, more so you saw more effort and energy, and you saw more work into his defense last year. Because like I said, he has kind of regressed a little bit on the defensive end. So, and then the second thing, obviously consistency, right? He has not been very consistent this year. And that's the thing though. Like the first 3 years in the league, he has gotten better every year he's been in the league, and he's been more of a consistent player. This year, he has not been a consistent guy. It's been a roller coaster ride with his production. And yes, you can look at a couple factors where, rotation, obviously this year was a lot of, was kind of like last year where we had a lot of veterans that we needed to move and showcase in the first half. And in the second half, there was a little more flexibility and a little more leeway as far as playing minutes, not only with himself, but with a lot of the younger players. And you're going to see the same thing in the second half of this year. It's going to be a youth movement now. And, Corey Kispert is the longest tenured Wizard on the roster. So you kind of do want to see some leadership. And like I said, he has gone a long way of kind of established himself as a leader here in DC. When you think of leaders, you think of Jordan Poole, you think of Anthony Gill, you think of the vets and Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon. But Corey Kispert, I think, is a guy who has been a leader by example. Like I said, until this season, and I think he will have a better second half of the season. But in the first half, he's been inconsistent. So, and of course, on the defensive end, it's still a work in progress. So, where do I grade Corey Kispert? Oh, before we get into my grade real quick, what are my expectations? Well, I want to see more consistency. I want to see him go back to being that Corey Kispert, that threat on the outside. And before the All-Star break, he was getting back to being that guy. You starting to see the Corey Kispert from the first 3 seasons as opposed to the very inconsistent Corey Kispert of the first half of this season. So if he can get back to being that guy, definitely want to see more leadership out of him because, like I said, he is the longest tenured Wizard. And I think that, look, he's been in the process from Tommy to now. So he's a guy who does deserve a little bit of respect. But like I said, the biggest thing with Corey Kispert is, and what my expectations are in the second half of the season, is consistency. Being that microwave scorer, that 6th man coming off the second unit, being that sniper. We need him to be that sniper because, yes, we have Kyshawn George, which we're about to talk about in a minute. But, and obviously Jordan Poole can shoot from 3. But that's the thing, though. After JP, after Kyshawn, we're your shooters. You look at that, Bilal's just not there yet. Alex Sarr, he has a capability, but he hasn't shown that level of consistency yet. And that's it. I mean, we need Corey Kispert to be that shooter, man, because like I said, Kyshawn George suffers from inconsistency too, which we're about to talk about. But we need that 3-point shoot off the second unit. He is very pivotal to this team's success. And I get it, guys. We're 9-45. But the thing is, right now is culture. Right now is development. And we need him, which means what, right? Playing hard, playing to win games. And in order for us to be in a position to win games in the second half of the season, we need Corey Kispert to get back to being that consistent 3-point threat and definitely lead by example when it comes to moving out the basketball, constantly moving, try to find open looks. And if he reverts to being that guy that he was the first 3 years, I think he will be all right, man. So where does he grade real quick, guys? Well, I'm going to give Kispert a B-. I was kind of hovering around a B-, C+. And the biggest reason is obviously defense. Defense, you definitely want to see more defensively. And he's never going to be a lockdown defender, but you want to see that fire on the defensive end. You saw it last year where, again, guys, he is a below average defender. And you do want to see more energy and a lot more impact on the defensive end. But at this stage, I think that he is what he is at this point. He's a shooter. And when you look at shooters like Duncan Robinson, like Corey Kispert, you're never going to see a guy who's a shooter really be a lockdown defender. They're going to play to a certain level defensively, but the biggest attribute is shooting. So I'm going to say B-. I'm flirting with a C+ because obviously defense, but the biggest thing is consistency. If he can get back to being that consistent threat on the perimeter and be that lead by example as far as moving out the basketball and really let his high basketball IQ shine, he will be all right. He'll get back to being that Corey Kispert that we know and love. So, all right, everybody, we're going to get into Kyshawn George. What are his pros and cons, and what are my expectations for 3-Sean after or in the second half of the regular season? But before we get into that, tonight's episode is brought to you by Prizepicks. Football season may be over, but basketball's action is just heating up. And there's no better way to get in on the excitement than with Prizepicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. It's simple. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Let me repeat that, guys. 1,000 times your cash. Come on now. With Prizepicks, you can control the action all season long. And like I said, guys, I love me some Prizepicks. You already know I'm a big player projections guy, and to me, you got what's not to like? 1,000 times your cash. Come on, you got to get in on the action, guys. And plus, you got the second half of the basketball season, and you got Major League Baseball coming up for all you baseball fans like myself. So, and definitely, the Dodgers, man, is definitely your best bet. But do yourself a favor, guys. Download the app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. All right, everybody, let's get into 3-Sean, aka Kyshawn George, man. Like I said, he is definitely wowed me this year, man. And I was a big fan of him in the second half of not second half. What am I talking about, guys? In college when he was playing in Miami. And we're looking at his scouting report in the draft. I felt like he was a prospect, man, where a big sleeper in this last draft, man. When you think of sleeper, especially when it comes to the draft picks in his previous draft with the Wizards, you're pretty much looking at what Bob Carrington at 14. But I think you have to, when you think of sleepers, not only for the Wizards but for overall the NBA, you've got to look at Kyshawn George because I'm telling you, he has played good. So let's pull up his stats real quick for his rookie campaign. All right. So Kyshawn George, he is currently averaging 8.1 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, and 2.2 assists while shooting 36.5% from the field. Now, let's look at three-point range. He is currently shooting 31% from three and 77% from the free throw line. But the biggest one key stat to look at outside three-point shooting, but is steals. He's averaging almost a steal, and it tells you what. Defensively, he's very slept on. He appears to be an above average defender, in my opinion. He coming out of Miami, again, looking at his scouting report, coming out of the U, he was looked at as predominantly a three-point shooter, a guy who, he can find other ways to get involved, mid-range, attacking the basket, but you predominantly see him as a three-point shooter. And I think that the other attributes will begin to develop and shine, especially his mid-range and his ability to attack the basket. Not quite there yet, but I think over the course of the next couple of seasons, you will see Sean kind of get, definitely add to his repertoire offensively. Mid-range, creating for others. Because like I said, at 6'8", he sees himself as a guard. And, you kind of see that with his vision. I can definitely see him being a guy who could be a second or third ball handler, a guy who can definitely look to, utilize his vision and find other people. So let's get into his pros. Obviously, three-point shooting. Yeah, he's shooting 31%. And again, kind of like Corey Kispert, I think a lot of that has to do with consistent role, right? There's times when, in the first half of the season where you saw Kyle Kuzma went down with injury, Kyshawn George was able to come in and be that power forward. Yes, is he really your vision at power forward long term? No, he's not. To me, he's a better fit as small forward or two guard. But like I said, you don't have the power forward of the future on this roster, so you're probably going to see a platoon situation between him and Justin Shimpney at the 4, and I think that's cool for this year because you definitely will see some development both out of Kyshawn George and Justin Shimpney. But you're not going to get true development because they're not going to be playing at the position where really they could be best utilized. Like I said, Justin Shimpney and Kyshawn George aren't power forwards, but they're going to be predominantly be featured there because, again, Marvin Bagley III was moved, and you don't have Kyle Kuzma. He was moved also. So you don't really – now, here's the scenario. Could you kind of plug in Vucevic in certain situations? Absolutely, especially if you want to go with a taller lineup with Sarr and Vucevic, especially if you go against a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, where they have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I can see that scenario. I think that you should definitely, BK should definitely consider that lineup with certain matchups. But right now, you're looking at Kyshawn George being relegated to power forward. But his pros are he can shoot the three. And it's just having that consistent role. Like I said, when he was starting for Kyle Kuzma, he did well. And then he was relegated to second unit, and he kind of had to share opportunities with Corey Kispert. And even though I do think that both of them on the second unit can eat a couple of shooters. And that's why if you look at the thumbnail, I put Budget Splash Bros, man, because both of them are high-level shooters, man. Both of them can definitely shoot the three-point shot from a high percentage, man. But the biggest thing is consistency with both of them. Already talked about Corey Kispert with Kyshawn George's consistency, but we're going to get into cons in a minute. Pros, again, three-point shooting. Yes, he's only shooting 31%, but three-point shooting, he's still a threat from the perimeter and will get better over the course of the next couple of seasons, being that three-point shooter on the second unit, or depending on what direction they go in the starting five. And really, again, a lot of that has to do with where we go in the draft. But other pros, like I said, at 6'8", he has the ability to bring the rock up and definitely find people and definitely get other people around him involved. And I think that, at 6'8", with him having those guard skills, he's one of those guys where when he grew, he kind of kept those guard skills. The best example to me was Scottie Pippen. If you look at Scottie Pippen, the reason he was such a good point forward was because when he was coming through in college and really in high school, he was a point guard. And then the more he grew, he kind of held on to those guard skills. You see that with Kyshawn George, man. He brings really good guard skills at 6'8". You see, and like I said, the mid-range, him attacking the basket, you've seen glimpses of that, but I think you're going to see a lot more of that the more he develops over the course of the next couple seasons. You're not going to see a lot of that, and you do want to see him kind of put the ball in for an attack. Definitely see if you can develop a more consistent mid-range game, but to me, it's just utilizing his size as one pro, and it's three-point shooting. Let's get to the biggest pro, in my opinion, defense. Again, coming out of Miami, a lot of people, include myself, as far as looking, scouts and people looking at the scouting report, look at him as a shooter. And obviously, when you look at his offensive potential, I already mentioned it. He has the capability to develop in mid-range game and attack the basket. But the biggest thing is defense. A lot of people didn't put a lot of respect. And it's not that he was ever a bad defender, but it wasn't his best attribute. But I'm here to say that his defense rivals his three-point shooting. He's a really good defender. He shows a lot of effort, a lot of energy. He's very active in passing lanes. He utilizes his size of 6'8" to really be pesky as a defender, man. I think he's a very slept on and undervalued defender. I think, and he really, if you look at what the Wizards are doing, right? The mold is 3-and-D. That is what Will Dawkins is trying to do as far as roster construction. Bilal Coulibaly, yes, I get it. The offense is still in a work in progress, but the defense is there. Alex Sarr has a capability to stretch the floor, but the defense is already there. Bob Carrington, a microwave scorer, a scorer mentality. I mean, just a dog scorer. But defensively, he shows above average defense. And the same thing with Kyshawn George, man, above average defense. You can argue all 5 draft picks under Will Dawkins are defenders. They can argue because if you look at Tristan Vucevic, he has rim protection potential, and you already see glimpses of him being that rim protector. So like I said, the mold is 3-and-D, the ability to stretch the floor from 3-point range and mid-range, right? And like I said, with Bilal, he's going to get there, still a work in progress. Alex Sarr, you've seen glimpses, work in progress. But when you look at microwave scorer Bub Carrington, who I look at as a 2-guard, defense is there. He's very pesky. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. He plays with attitude, which are big reasons why I love me some Bub Carrington, man, because I think he's definitely going to be a star. But Kyshawn George is the same thing. He brings defensive intensity. He definitely shows a lot of effort and a lot of energy on the defensive end. And in my opinion, he's an above average defender. So those are my pros for him. Cons real quick. Oh, again, consistency, just like Corey Kispert. You want to see consistency. And like I said, with both him, not so much Corey Kispert to a certain degree, but with him, is a consistent role. And I think that with, again, Kyle Kuzma now a Milwaukee Buck and Marvin Bagley III being on his way, Kyshawn George is going to have the opportunity to kind of have a consistent role in the second half of the season. So that's the biggest knock against Kyshawn, man, is consistency, being a consistent threat. There's times where you'll see 15 points. There's times where you'll see 2 points. So he definitely, like I said, when you look at touches on the first unit, because you're looking at him being probably at least, for the second half of the season, the starting power forward, the touches, Jordan Poole's going to be your number one option. It's not even up for debate. You're hoping that Bilal could be that number 2. And a lot of people are saying that, Bilal is not a true number 2. Well, I mean, look, we're a 9-45 team. So he's not going to be your true number 2, but he is right now because of the state of the construction of the team. So Sarr, you would have hoped he can be the second or third. So to me, and Bub would probably be your, really, I mean, if you really want to look at best case scenario, your best case scenario, you probably want to be Bub Carrington to be your second option, because he's got that scorer's mentality. He is a microwave scorer, man. He's a walking bucket. So, I mean, you probably look at relegating not Sarr, but Bilal to the third or fourth option. And I think that's okay, because give him time to develop. He's not quite ready to shoulder that offensive load, even though I do think in the realm of overall play, he's ready to be that running mate with Jordan Poole. But offensively, I'm thinking in terms of defensively, really. Offensively, still a work in progress, even though you see glimpses. So those are my cons with Kyshawn, man, is consistency. And I think he will get better on that front with a more consistent role at power forward. Expectations, continue to do what he's doing. Just more consistency. That's my expectation. So with our grade Kyshawn real quick, I'm going to grade him the same as Corey Kispert. I'm going to give him a B-. You can flirt with a C+, because the consistency was an issue. But like I said, I'm not going to harp too much on both of them over their lack of consistency, because they've been fighting with having a consistent role. And I think that Corey Kispert has had more of a consistent role, being that microwave scorer and that 6-man off the second unit. But looking at Kyshawn George, if you give him a consistent role, he will produce. So I'm going to say a B-. All right, guys, we're going to take a look at what to expect this weekend, because like I said, we got games rolling this weekend. So I'm going to get you guys an itinerary for the rest of the weekend and what to look for next week. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today, not tomorrow, today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. Come on now. Come on. Stay with me. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed, y'all. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Now, only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. right? See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantee. All right, guys. Like I said before, we roll tonight, man. Like I said, I definitely appreciate you guys rolling your boy as usual, man. This channel has grown so much, man. I appreciate you guys. I really do. We are creeping up to 5,000 subscribers, man. So like I said, I'm trying to talk to my network and talk to my people over the Locked On, man. See if we can get a promotion going for everyone, man, to help us get to 5K. But again, guys, this is my third regular season covering the team. Second as a credentialed media member of the Washington Wizards, and it's been a blessing to roll with you guys, man. There's a lot of you that remember me from day one, how raw I was. Look, I was Bilal, man. I was Alex Sarr at one point, and I was very raw in the podcast game, man. And we went in with the help of my guy, the real Ed Offer, man, forming the best backcourt at DMB. We were able to really build this channel. And now that I'm solo, and well, not solo, I got my guy AB, man, but started the season solo, and now I got Abdullah with, rolling with me. It's been a blessing, guys. So like I said, definitely appreciate you guys rolling me since day one, because we are creeping up on 5K as far as subscribers. So, all right, guys, let's look at the schedule real quick, because as far as content, tomorrow we're going to do Justin Shimpney, his mid-season grade, and then we're going to do a preview for Friday night's game against the Milwaukee Bucks, because Kyle Kuzma is coming back to the 202. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of reception he gets. And look, man, shout out to Kyle Kuzma. He is now engaged to his former girlfriend, man, his model girlfriend. So definitely shout out to Kyle Kuzma, man, being engaged, taking that next step in his relationship. So shout out to Clutch Kuz, man. Wish you all the success in the world of Milwaukee, man. So like I said, definitely shout out to Kuz taking that next step in his life, man. All right, so guys, like I said, tomorrow we're going to do a preview for Friday night's game. Now I will be there on Friday night covering the Wizards versus Bucks matchup. So and there's also a TI concert. So my dad and my son are actually going to the game with me. I'm gonna do the media side, and they're gonna enjoy themselves watching the game, because my son's favorite player is Giannis Antetokounmpo. So it is what it is. And then TI is performing after the game. So hopefully they have fun, man. But like I said, I will be covering the game on the media side. So I will be going to the post-game press conference. So again, Friday night, guys, we will not be going live. We will be going live on Saturday at 7 o'clock that night. All right, now saying that, again, Friday night, 7 o'clock, tune in. Milwaukee Bucks versus our beloved Washington Wizards. Now, on Sunday, they go to Orlando, 6 o'clock game, so we're probably going live around 8:30 on Sunday night. Monday, they are home again against the Brooklyn Nets at 7 o'clock. So we will be going live on Monday night at 9:30 as usual. And then on Wednesday, again, I will be down there to cover the Portland Trail Blazers and Washington Wizards matchup. My guy, Denny Avia, is coming back, man. So I definitely, I went out to the Mavericks game because I wanted to see my guy Gafford. So like I said, former Wizards, a lot of the guys, I try to go out there and show some love with them coming back. Most of them, that is. So Wednesday, I will be covering the game against the Trailblazers, and Friday night, I will be covering the game against the Bucks. So that is what to expect over the course of the weekend and the early part of next week. Now, and of course, when we get to next weekend, we'll get to that, because they go back on the road. Next month, they're on the road, so we're going to definitely get into that. But as far as content, obviously tomorrow's going to be our last, or one of our last mid-season grade videos. Now, I do want to do a mid-season grade for Will Dawkins and Coach BK, so definitely expect that probably on Tuesday. So again, guys, that is what the itinerary is for this weekend and the early part of next week. So again, guys, I will be covering Wednesday's game against Trailblazers. So we won't be going live that night. I will be at the press conference, and the same thing Friday night. So again, that's what to look for as far as content. So all right, guys, like I said, I appreciate you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow night, because we're going to do a midseason grade for Justin Shimpney and do a preview for Friday night's game against the Bucks. Head to the Wizards, and peace.